Hello, I'm Ray here and this is MotoNZ, and in this final video for the year we're breaking down the big one, Sena versus Cardo. Now in this test we are putting Sena's 50S top of the line communicator up against Cardo's Packtalk Edge. I've got the Cardo Packtalk Edge installed on my Arai XD4, the Sena 50S installed on my LS2 Vector 2 helmet, and we're trying to be as impartial as we can, taking point for point and seeing which one is better. Full disclosure, both of these companies sent me these units for free. Neither of these companies know I'm making this video. Neither of these companies have influence on this video, and all of this is based on my own personal use. So up till probably about 5 years ago, Sena was the name when it comes to communicators, Bluetooth devices on your helmet. They had market dominance, they had the most brand recognition, but then kind of a sea change happened and Cardo came along. They'd always been there in the background, but they stepped it up, and then a bit of a cult following followed Cardo. And now it's point for point, these two above all others. And the thing that puts these two above all others is mesh connection. So Sena call it mesh or mesh 2.0. Cardo call it DMC or DMC 2.0. DMC stands for dynamic mesh communication or connection. It's the same thing. However, the two don't talk to each other via mesh. So I guess everything I'm about to say needs to be underwritten by the question, when it comes to you buying one, which one do your mates have? Because you can have the best unit, but when it comes to connecting to your mates, if it's not the same brand, it's gonna be annoying and you're gonna have a worse riding experience, a worse using experience, and it's just not gonna be fun. So on the face of it, both of these units do the same thing. They both have a couple of Bluetooth connections, a couple of Bluetooth intercom connections, mesh connection, FM radio. They both say they're water resistant-ish. That's a point of contention we'll get to shortly. But I guess the biggest difference between the two units is range, and that's what you're going to want to use, right? Cardo says, and I'm looking at the back of the box to check, 1,600 meters, 1.6 kilometers. Sena says a bit further than that. I think they say 1.9 kilometers to 2 kilometers. In my testing, neither brand stacks up to their claims. Both are around the 900 to maybe 1,200 meter mark, and you've got to remember that both that's in ideal conditions. Line of sight, best atmospherics, all of that sort of junk. So they're both pretty good when it comes to range. I've never really found myself lacking, although when you get into the bush, into the trees, or into the twisties in those hills, they're going to drop out pretty quickly when you lose line of sight. Cardo seems to connect faster. Reconnect faster, I should say. Sena takes a little bit of time. Both of them, via DMC or mesh, reconnect themselves. They're a self-healing network. One of the other benefits of DMC is it doesn't matter who's connected to who, everybody's connected to everyone, and that mesh is constantly rejigging the order to make sure the connection is getting as far as possible. Unlike Bluetooth, where rider A connected to B, connected to C, connected to D, if they get out of order and lose range, the connection drops out, no one can talk to anyone, and it's just a bad time. So that's your range. Let's talk about waterproofing, and as I look outside, it's absolutely howling down out there. Waterproofing. Cardo, IP67 rated. IP stands for the ingress, the ingress protection. So it's rated the highest against dust ingress, it's rated the highest against water ingress, and if it dies due to water ingress, they will replace it. Sena is not IP rated at all. It is water resistant. And if I'm honest, the unit itself has been water resistant. I haven't had a unit die due to water ingress, but the weak point when it comes to Sena is the connection between the unit itself and the base station. If you get water in here, which can happen if you get a really heavy downpour, it tends to malfunction, and then you need to stop at a cafe for a pint of coffee and dry it out. that is my experience. The unit itself's been fine, water's got into the connections, it's died. Once I've dried it out, it's worked perfectly fine. I have never had that problem with the Cardo Packtalk Edge or the Packtalk Bold before it. Never, not a problem. So that is a mark for Cardo. I've got to say it. Here's a table. Let's run through some quick stats. Bluetooth channels, 2 for both. Mesh, yes for both. Voice commands, yes for both. FM radio, yes for both. Speaker size, 40mm in the Sena, 40mm in the Cardo. Sena speakers are made by Harman Kardon. Cardo speakers are made by JBL. Both have a couple of different mounting options, both clamp and sticky mounts. Both have boom and sticky mics. The Sena has auxiliary headphone output. The Cardo does not. However, the Cardo does have a headphone jack coming out of the base station that you could use instead. Claimed range in the Sena, 1.2 miles, 1.9 kilometers or 1900 meters. Cardo, 1 mile, 1.6 kilometers or 1600 meters. Both have app control and both have button combinations you can use on the specific unit. Both are charged by USB-C, fast charge, which is really good. Sena claimed 14 hours of battery life, while Cardo claimed 12 hours of battery life. In my experience, I easily got 12 hours out of, I actually got 13 hours out of the Cardo, and I got 13 hours, which is one less than claimed, in the Sena. And the Sena is water resistant, where the Cardo is IP67 rated. Now, when it comes to installation, I found the Cardo to be a bit easier to install. The Sena was a little bit fiddly, and that's basically due to the fact that they use these little Allen key grub screws to connect the clamping plates or the sticky plate to the mount. A little bit more fiddly. Also, I needed to undo screws to get cables out and replace mics and that sort of thing. Where when it came to the Cardo, the wiring loom comes out of the bottom of the base station here, and it terminates in a couple of plugs, and you literally just unplug the boom mic, plug the sticky mic in, unplug the headphones, plug out the headphones in. Also, the design of the mounting hardware meant that Cardo was a more versatile option. So if I take the Cardo unit off its base station, that's the base. And so to replace the sticky mount, which I've used on this helmet with a clamp mount, it's just a little tab that you release, slide it out, slide the new one in and clamp it on. That's great. It's also very small. The base station is about the same size as the unit itself. That was not my experience with the Sena, however. The Sena, if I take the unit itself off the base station, this is where the unit sits, and then you've got this big chungus bit at the bottom here, which has got hardware and your microphone and everything in it, which means that it needs to be installed to the bottom lip of a helmet, which means that it can only be installed in certain places on a helmet, making it less versatile. It's also, the unit itself is much bigger than the Cardo counterpart, and it was just a bit more fiddly. So as far as mounting versatility goes, I got to give it to the Cardo. They've nailed it on that one. Where the Sena kind of excels over the Cardo, though, is that it's got two different types of mesh connection. You can do direct mesh connection, where you get 4 or 5 of your mates around and all connect on the same mesh channel, and then you're in a private conversation. But you can also set it to open mesh, which means that you've got 9 channels of open mesh, much like an RT radio. Anyone on that channel can hear you and join the conversation. I like that. I think that's really good. And that, coupled with the mesh port red, means that you can pair that to a camera, and you've got an easy group recording of the audio conversation on your open mesh channel. Cardo only do point to point. So you've got DMC, you get your mates around, you all hit connect, somebody's in charge, and that's your lot. And you can add more people to that group, but it's a manual connection. There is no open mesh connection. Now, at the time of recording this video, you can have a group of people on Cardo and a group of people on Sena and bridge that connection. However, how you need to do it is one rider from the Cardo group, one rider from the Sena group, open a Bluetooth bridge, and that allows everyone in the Cardo mesh group and everyone in the Sena mesh group to talk to each other via that bridge. Those two people need to stay basically within a couple of 100 meters of each other. If that connection drops out, the Cardo system will try and reconnect for up to 5 minutes. So that's quite cool. It says, it speaks volumes to how Cardo are trying to make this whole world between the two companies more fluid and easier to use. So it can be done, but it is still a bit fiddly and not something that I see most people doing often. In my experience, this sort of stuff, it needs to be easy. It needs to be a couple of buttons and not much waiting or faffing around, because you're generally on the side of the road ready to go and everyone's keen to get going. So if it's not easy, you just won't do it. Through the app, on both apps, the systems have over-the-air updates. What does that mean? It means you don't have to take the unit away, plug it into your computer, do the update. You can do it through the app on your phone. The Cardo one has worked forever for me. The Sena one didn't work for me. When I first got the Sena out of the box, I saw the option, but it didn't work, and I had to plug the Sena into the computer to do the updates. That may have been because it shipped on factory firmware, and the next update it will work perfectly fine. I can't confirm that. However, out of the box, the Cardo over-the-air updates worked, the Sena didn't. Sena does come with a USB Wi-Fi dongle though, so you plug one end into power, one end into the unit, and then connect that to your Wi-Fi, and it will do automatic updates that way. Cardo does not. Speaking of the app, Sena's app, I think, looks nicer and is a little bit easier to use. Cardo's app is a little bit trickier to use, sometimes doesn't connect to the unit easily, and however does offer more functionality, more options, more things you can change to customize the listening experience. So you've got more options and more settings in the Cardo app, but the Sena app makes the unit easier to use and always connects quickly. Sound from both are fine, are great, and the sound that you'll experience from the unit does depend a lot on the helmet you're using. You need to make sure those speakers are right by your ears. You can have a couple of millimeters between your ear and the speaker, that's fine, but if they're a little bit further back or a little bit far forward or just not perfectly placed, you're going to have a diminished listening experience. So make sure that your helmet works well with them, they sit right and it's comfortable. You can always get it comfortable. You know, if you've got a bit of pressure on the ear, you know, that can ruin your riding day, but you can always tweak it to make it right for you. But in my experience running both units on alternating helmets and my other helmets, they both sound great. We've got Harman Kardon speakers, 40mm there. We've got JBL speakers there, and to be honest, couldn't hear the difference. The biggest thing for me was the shell of the helmet and the construction of the helmet that impacted the sound, the bass, the sound quality, that sort of thing. Both units have combinations of buttons that you need to remember, but when you're only using one unit, I think it'll be a lot easier to remember those combinations of buttons. And if you don't remember combinations of buttons, all you need to remember is how to turn the thing on, and you can do it all from your phone. So that's not a big deal. I can't say one or the other is better because it's just combinations of buttons. Both units have voice command control. I don't think they call it voice command control. What do they call it? Natural voice operation. In that I can trigger my virtual assistant on my phone from both units. However, the Cardo one always worked, or worked 90% of the time. The Sena one worked with the virtual assistant, but the internal voice commands like "Hey Sena, volume up," or "Hey Sena, music on," that never actually worked, and I couldn't work out what setting I had to change to make it work. Cardo worked fine out of the box. Sena just didn't quite gel for me. So at the end of 12 rounds, that's laying it out. Both units are good. Both units do the job. Both units do what they say on the box mostly. But which one is better? I've got to lean towards the Cardo because it fits more helmets. It's smaller, less wind resistance on the side of your helmet. Well, it's actually that side. And I think that they're innovating more than Sena are. It's a tough one because both do a good job. Both do what I want them to do. And what I want them to do is when I'm commuting, I want them to be there. I want them to connect to my phone, give me turn-by-turn navigation, play my music on my podcasts. And then on the occasion, probably 5 times a year max, when I go riding with a mate, I want them to connect. I reach for the Cardo more than the Sena. The other big player is that waterproofing. I don't want to go on a 3-day ride and be worried about the encroaching storm that I see coming over the horizon. I want the peace of mind knowing that it's IP67 rated, it's never failed me in the past, and if it does die, Cardo will replace it. Water resistant is not a big enough claim to give me peace of mind. IP67 rating is. Price wise, they're both basically the same, so on those grounds alone, Cardo's my winner. You do you. What do your mates run? If you're looking for a unit like this, one of these units, just ask your question, what do your mates run? And if you don't want to spend this kind of money, check out the videos on this channel of the cheaper options, the more cost-effective options, because a lot of them have a lot of the features that you'll be needing. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you have a fantastic Christmas and a pretty good, not bad New Year, and we will catch you in 2024. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment below if you've got any questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next year. Hooroo!